All right.
Yeah, it sounds good. Sounds good. This is like my third space today. I feel like Oprah. I'm like a talk show host now. This is what it's like. It is not easy, but it's pretty cool. Different. I haven't got anything done today, but it's been cool. But awesome. We got a couple topics to talk about. We'll just knock them out really quick. Are we broadcasting on YouTube, Discord, and Twitter Spaces, or where are we broadcasting right now?
Yeah, well, so we're obviously here on the One High Twitter space, and we're also streaming on 1HTV YouTube. So that'll be a few seconds behind the broadcast here on Twitter, and also recorded though to watch and share after the show is over.
Awesome. So definitely, the people on Twitter Spaces listen to the recorded space. Definitely check out 1HTV on YouTube. It has a lot of video accompanied with the spaces that we have here for the visual, guides and any articles. Those are getting linked on YouTube. We have a couple topics today and a few rants, open discussion topics overall. But we're going to, talking about the Wintermute hacks, the vanity address hack on that. Arbitrum Nitro, the white hack that was a 400 ETH bounty, which was amazing. And the really deep discussion on reversible transactions that was brought up on Twitter. I forget the name, but totally FBI kind of chick. And just general chit chat overall. I'm going to start off with maybe some Do Kwon talk, right? That's kind of the latest news. Do Kwon was wanted by He was cool. He's working with it, and now he's wanted by Interpol. So it's kind of a crazy situation. I'm kind of saying finally, this dude lost millions and billions of dollars in a matter of a day, and he was walking around doing Netflix shows or whatever he's doing, and just having talk shows, while this other guy, what is his name, Alex Persev, he's still in jail. The Tornado Cash guy. He didn't do anything. He just wrote some code and uploaded it, and they put him in jail for 90 days. Do Kwon creates this crazy Ponzi scheme, loses people billions of dollars, and then all of a sudden he's over, just chilling, tweeting shit. People have committed suicide and financial ruin, and he's chilling. So now finally, I guess the long arm of the law is finally catching up. But he's kind of on the run now, I think. I mean, he says he's not. I don't know if it's him tweeting, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on that one, T-Well?
Yeah, man, we talked briefly about this in yesterday's show, and Interpol definitely sort of elevates the whole situation beyond speculation, and clearly the authorities in Singapore were more or less complying and or cooperating, I guess is probably the better term, with the red notice, and he's not there. Right, so he's saying that it's funny, I got one up on screen now. It says, crypto founder behind $60 billion collapse says he's, quote, not in hiding after Interpol issues arrest notice. So, who knows? It's I'm not in hiding, guys, I'm just hiding. I have no idea, right? But I don't know who knows where he is.
Well, I'm going to tell you this, T. Wells, okay? If I had, some extra cash in my pocket and Interpol was after me, I wouldn't be staying in the same place, fam, okay? I'd be look over that way. Someone hold my Twitter account. Someone log in with an IP. I'll give you $100K to log into my phone. Go hang out over here, start tweeting, and I'm going to take off with whatever money I have left. And it's showing on chain that he had pulled out about $250,000 into another wallet about a few days before. So he has some cold hard cash on him.
BTC, right? It's $3K BTC or something crazy.
Yeah, something wild on there. So he's got some money to move around. He's got money to pull favors. So I mean, if he stays on the run, it's not going to be very long because he might run out of money pretty quick, and loyalty dies down pretty quick when you have no money. So we will see. I mean, this is a better story for me than the Netflix documentary. So I'm curious to see what happens. With Do Kwon. I mean, he's, I'd be on the run too. If you got nothing to lose, that's the most dangerous person in the world. It's he's lost everything, right? So now if he's going to do time in jail or go through this whole legal battle, it's he's going to spend the rest of his life doing this thing, or he could just chill and be on the run and you maybe get some plastic surgery, or who knows? I mean, that's what I would do. If you keep it real.
Go beyond McAfee's wildest dreams.
Uh-huh. Yeah, exactly. Which kind of brings me to the next step is Mashinsky from Celsius stepped down today. He's still not in jail. For those that don't know who Mashinsky is, he's the guy that was behind the whole Celsius I don't want to say scam, but over leveraged borrowing system. I mean, obviously affected by the UST downfall, but he's the one that was kind of promoting, you know, like, hey, like to rich people, like a lot of high players, to give them bonuses on their deposits. And, you know, this is before they announced the no withdrawals, like a couple of days before. And so, you know, they basically played, you know, big games with all the leverages to the point where 2 days before he was doing all the trading himself. He took over all trading. And so basically he screwed up, didn't make it happen. I really thought they were going to pay things back because I was watching that whole thing, you know, as they were doing the Bancor and permanent loss, you know, flaws, and they were trade swapping on exchanges with sell tokens. I mean, they were paying back all their default loans. I'm like, man, these guys may make it out of the hole. And the moment they cleared their debts and it's time to pay the people back, they declare bankruptcy, right? Which was kind of like the shittiest thing you can do. And it's like, okay, this guy needs to do time because he just cost a lot of people a whole lot of time. And they're talking about rebranding to Fahrenheit. And so they're going through all this bankruptcy court. And then if you wanted to, you know, pull your money out, you had to file with the courts. And now today he just steps down as CEO. So, you know, it's kind of like, and the sell token just dumped. It dumped like hard. So it's kind of like he's just screwing everybody that's connected to Celsius as much as possible. But yet the guy,
there's some way for him to just screw everyone one more time. God damn.
Yeah, and it's crazy because his wife is doing some stuff that is like, you know, totally like so ghetto. I mean, she's selling bankruptcy T-shirts and all these things, trying to make extra money. Like she's living a whole separate life, which is insane. I mean, obviously has nothing to do with the company, but it's still kind of a shitty thing. It's like it's just the really, really low class people, and it's just kind of upsetting that, you know, these guys are walking around free. Like these are the people that give crypto a bad name, you know, and it's like these are the guys that the headlines. These are the guys that are causing political people to say, hey, you know, this is bad, you know, we need regulation. And it's like, honestly, I don't care what anybody does in the space. And in reality, it's like, I kind of mind my own business, but the problem is, it's not like you're walking down the street and you see a crackhead and he's doing his thing and like whatever, you know, he's crazy. He's gonna jump backflip off a house. Like, oh wow, that's crazy. And you just watch, and then you say, oh, that was crazy, and walk away. This environment is more like a classroom, right? And you have this crazy teacher that punishes everybody for one bad student. You know, you got 29 students behaving, doing what they're doing, you know, following the rules, and then you have this one guy that acts like a clown, and then the whole class gets in trouble for it. So it's like kind of like, man, you know, what are you doing? Because now all the focus is on this, all the focus is on the bad news, and then you got all these people, all these government regulations trying to step in and say, oh, because of this, this, and this, you know, it's bad. We even had the point where stable coins were not going to be usable through California because they had to be issued through a bank. I was like, you know, that defeats the purpose. Luckily, it got vetoed by Newsom, but still, we ran that risk. That was on the table, you know. So these actions from these people, Kwon, Mashinsky, again, not really decentralized overall, but like these guys are influencing the way regulations and regulators are kind of handling our situation, which is kind of a shitty situation. Yeah, it's just not good. And it's like, you know, this is one out of, you know, thousands of people that are contributing to good places in the space, doing like innovative ideas, and it's like we just get, you know, overwashed by these two bad actors in the space. That was pretty shitty. I don't know. It's like I want you to do you, and I don't want to be that nosy neighbor that tells you how to do something. But when you're doing something and it affects me, then I'm going to be.
It burns down the whole neighborhood, brother. Fuck.
Yeah, exactly. You need to chill. You know, I even had a lady come out. It was bothering me. I was parking, you know, waiting to pick up my nephew. And this lady comes out of her house and she said, hey, can you move up 1 foot forward? And I was like, what? I'm sitting in the car. We're just sitting there. She's like, the mail is going to come. There's no mailman by the street, by the way. No, it's like, I don't want to have to go to the post office to pick up my mail in case the mail comes. I'm like, I look, man, like, there's no postman on the way or anything. I'm like, what the fuck is this lady talking about? And so I'm trying not to be that person, you know, be that nosy, annoying person on the street. But if I was parking and all of a sudden, oh, you know, if I park here and all of a sudden, you know, the police say, oh, anybody that parks here now becomes, you know, illegal. Obviously, that plays a role. So, you know, give her gifts and that. You know, I'm like, I'm kind of, I don't know where to interfere, where to not. So now I just talk shit about everything. You know, that's kind of my approach in a sense.
You're an equal opportunity hater. Not hater, an equal opportunity critic.
I like that.
Dude, I got this up on screen right now because I had to find it when you mentioned it earlier. But they're referring to his next level insulting. So yeah, his wife, Mashinsky's wife, upselling T-shirts that say, "quote, unbankrupt yourself."
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So So it's like, yeah, you got screwed because we held your keys. So I'm mocking you to your face and making money off it. Like, really?
Yeah.
That's wild, man. That's definitely a cherry on the sort of Sunday here. Wow, wow. Yeah, I mean, just the gall of the whole thing, man. Like, you got to believe that it's only a matter of time till some of these folks get made an example of. But who knows?
And that's what I'm hoping for, and that's the frustrating part. It's kind of like, if you have a lot of money, you can do whatever you want, and that's why I'm so pro crypto, so pro decentralization, because when it comes down to it, it's all about fairness. DeFi is beautiful for me because it's fair. It doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care how much money you have. If you don't pay up, you get liquidated, right? It doesn't matter. Like, the problem with Celsius and all these deals and why they got these bad positions is because they over leverage themselves, right? They went based on the processes of IOUs. There was a billionaire saying, "Hey, I can't pay you today. I'll pay you in a couple weeks." And as a lender, you're kind of like, "Well, I have to trust you, otherwise, I'm in a bad position." With DeFi, it doesn't matter. This moment you go and you pass your debt, someone's going to liquidate you. It doesn't matter who it is. Someone's going to be on there with the EVM bot ready to just snipe your goal. So you're forced to pay it back. It's forcing you. So it doesn't matter who you are. You could be the president of the United States, or you could just be the random worker that has $10 on the DeFi. It doesn't matter. And that's the beauty of the code in a sense. And I'm not saying code is 100% law, but that's the way I believe the cookie crumbles on there, and that's the only way to keep a true fairness. Which kind of leads me into this next thing of reversible transactions. I'm pretty sure everybody's read it. It's been all the hot latest news of being able to have the ability to according to a judging council reverse a transaction. And so just before I even get started, what's your take on that one, T-Wells?
Yeah, again, we hit this yesterday, and I again, you have a much better handle on the sort of technical side of things. So I'm really curious to hear your take tonight. But my understanding is that this solution, the piece of tech that was developed by Stanford researchers, is like an opt-in layer in effect. Like,
Right.
so any transaction that would be done in this layer in this app would be reversible, but it's not like they're proposing to alter the code base of Ethereum or something. But maybe that's mistaken. I don't know. What
No,
is happening with it, man? Educate us.
oh, that's correct in theory. Basically, it's like a DApp in a sense. To simple it down, it's basically like using a certain, like say Uniswap or something. Anytime you swap on Uniswap, you have this 7-day retention, right? And so you swap something and you have this major slippage. And say, hey, I should have got $10, but I got $5 instead because of some slippage. And so then you petition to these judges. The judges will review it, and then if they feel that it is correct, then they roll it back, and then whoever was up on that trade basically loses that trade in a sense. It's like a credit card where you have this like return policy in a sense, which I could see there's good uses for it. Like overall, obviously, if there's a hack, you want to get your money back, but it's like if you're going to go that route, then use PayPal because it's pretty much the same thing, right?
Pretty much. Yeah.
It's like you're putting money and it's going through like this moderators and they get to decide. I don't know if you ever had a chargeback on a credit card. When you call them, they say okay, and they usually side with the customer over the vendor, and the customer is always correct, and they tend to just roll it back if it's your first or second time doing so, and you don't abuse it. And so the issue is they have these judges on the system, and me about human interference with code, right? If a human can interfere with code that benefits them, or they can be persuaded to do so, they will. And that's long story short. There's no other which way about it. And so like I said before, I don't care what you do, but if this becomes a welcomed position, it may start to become a standard. And if it becomes a standard, then using something else could possibly become illegal. I'm not sure if you've been hearing up with like the political reports or anything, but they're already talking about regulating algorithms and looking into CBDCs of how they can control certain things and the way things will be issued, what's legal, what's not legal. Is code a corporation? Is code a person? Like all these different theories that were never spoken of or thought of before is now being taken into consideration in a sense. Like one, they're trying to understand, and two, They're trying to control the situation overall. Because right now, I mean, I think Owaki had the best example is, you know, you can code something for free, you can deploy something on mainnet for like a couple bucks, but if you want to have you know, protection against the state, it's going to cost you $200,000, right? So there's a big gap in creativity and the ability to support yourself legally, especially in the states. It's just really expensive to operate anything in the states. It's very anti-innovative. You know, as the states, we already lost, you know, the microchip battle, and we're slowly bringing it back because of COVID and China running control on that. When they start doing the manufacturing of all these different, you know, fabrication chips, we were out of luck. Our stock inventory was low, so now Intel is building something in Texas. I think there's another place that is being built for fabrications, but we really lost the flow of that. We've lost all the talent. It's being overseas, and now developers as well are now kind of, you know, basically handcuffed in a sense, unless they have VC or corporation support to do something innovative to pay for the legal cost and understanding of SEC, because we don't have any clear guidelines. So it's like, you know, you better play safe, because if we don't like it, we'll sue you, and then, you know, basically you settle out of court, or you fall victim to, like, you know, the wrath of the SEC, or now at the, what is it, the gosh, who's the one that's suing that DAO? I can't think off the top of my head. That other commodities organization.
Is it the commodities futures trading?
Yeah. So I mean, you thought they were safe. Everybody's playing their hand now, on control. So it's a very unfortunate situation as a developer in this space, because if you want to deploy a simple token to, like, you know, fundraise something for good, it'll cost me $10, you know, to deploy, to write my own code, to do anything. If I want to have legal support, you know, $250,000. So like it's like my innovation is being hanged by my liquidity, in a sense. So now I have to go into the support of big money. Big money wants to follow the rules. They want regulations, you know, and so like we're being handicapped in the States because of the rules and regulations. All I have to do is basically have citizenship somewhere else. I can go to Mexico, I can go to Europe, I can go to Asia, and I have free will, and I can run in everything I want. And, you know, the U.S. has a little bit of reach, but not as much as I would living in the States. And I wanted to share a tweet, because one of these guys, these old school Ethereum devs, kind of just made an announcement and deleted it. But basically, you know, he said the U.S. is getting very, very aggressive on developers, you know, making anything innovative that threatens the control. So he deleted all his GitHub, contributions, and he's going under Anon. And he'll be contributing through an Anon. So you're basically closing his Twitter account, using it more of a social thing from time to time, and not associating anything with crypto. And that's kind of the state of where we're at right now, because there's so much uncertainty that they can use this or that against you if you make something innovative. Now, if you're making an NFT project, you're not breaking the banking system. You're not banking the unbanked. You know, it's nothing. But when you're doing something that threatens the way things work, you know, you're threatening credit cards. You're threatening someone's
interest.
Yeah, they're going to go after you, and that's the unfortunate state. And there's no protection for developers. I mean, they're kind of going after free speech in the words of code. So it's kind of a scary situation. You know, again, I'm not at the level where I'm developing this tornado cash or anything like that. But if I wanted to contribute to something that for the greater good, you know, I want to bank the unbanked, and I want to help people in Venezuela able to get some wallets so they can eat. Well, now I'm breaking laws, and now something good I'm being punished for. And that's the dangers we go into. We're in these sticky roads where we have to pick and choose where we contribute to. So now we're picking winners and losers. And that's kind of the scary part, you know, rolling back into these reversible transactions. If it becomes the standards and then becomes illegal to use decentralized, you know, code, then I'd rather it just be washed away and not even an option, in a sense, if that makes sense.
I hear a lot of what you're saying, man. And I one of the things we also touched on yesterday, and I think is, you know, obviously relevant, intersects with a lot of what you're saying, is just the sounds that Gary Gensler is making over there at the SEC. You know, I think, just a quick digression here, but on a related note. You know, there are times, like, I personally am always willing to give, right? Like, I know people who work in DC, right? Grew up in the area. Most people are just trying to do their job. So, like, in general, I'm like, all right, regulatory agency, you know, I will always give benefit of the doubt. But then there are these moments where it's clear that the leadership of the agency itself is hostile, right? That there's no longer any neutrality, that there is a pretty clear agenda, and waiting until the merge happened and then saying that staking looks like it might not pass the Howey test and be a security. Like that is premeditated, right? You wait until that moment. For example, and to the larger point of uncertainty that you're pointing to on the developer side, I'm sure, like, look, nobody knows what's going to happen. This is a big electoral year in the U.S., right? We got less than 2 months now. So, but I do think that if the Democrats maintain control, and all else being equal, I don't see any reason why Gensler would be like leaving his post. So you sort of have, for this foreseeable future, unfortunately, a clearly like hostile regime, at least in the SEC, probably representing being a good running dog for his masters, on Wall Street.
Kind of the goal, and ultimately my end game plan for at least what I do and like educating local people is to make doing things anti-crypto or anti-decentralized political suicide, right? Right now, when you talk to someone that's not in the space, it's all about rug pulls and a bunch of scams and whatnot. And that's kind of the image that we get when you talk to people that are not in the space.
Yeah.
We don't have enough positive stories where you're changing people's lives or doing something good for the community. Those things get overshadowed by the Do Kwons and the Mashinskis, which really have nothing to do with what more people are doing on there. I mean, there's so many for good projects on there. You have Giveth, that's really trying to, you have Gitcoin. They're all public funding goods. They're all doing something to help the community, which kind of leads me to the stuff that I'm working on. That was all last minute. It kind of been MIA in the weekend, is, doing something for Puerto Rico. They had a major hurricane go through there, Fiona, and they've knocked power out, and basically the city's kind of in big distress, right? And so, I saw a little bit of noise and then nothing happened. So then I reached out to a couple of people that run a nonprofit. I'm like, let's do an NFT project for good, right? Let's keep it cheap. We're going to do make $5. Everybody talks about community. Let's test it out. Let's see how well it works. I'll do the contract work. I'll do the website. I'll deploy it, whatever, 100% of the proceeds go to it. And that's like a for good story. And I think that if we can bring more people into that, it's like, man, people from all over the world came together and went straight to the people. Again, like when I wanted to donate something to Ukraine, I didn't know who to trust, right? I went to Giveth. I was like, who do we trust? They didn't know who to trust either. And then at the end of the day, you ended up having people sending crypto directly to the Ukrainian government, which was insane to me. one of the most corrupted governments out there, right? And then people are sending crypto directly to them. So you don't know if it went to something good or wherever, right? So when you have someone on the ground and there's someone that you can trust, and you do your receipts, like, let's send money to them and then they can distribute it, right? Like if I wanted to donate to Red Cross and I had $100 after administration fees and all the, paying gas for truckers and moving stuff there, by the time it actually gets to the people, it's worth $50, so your money doesn't go far. And so crypto, in a sense, I believe, removes the middleman. And so if you can find trusted sources of proof onto different locations and continents of the world, well, now there's a good reason to have a wallet, right? And now you could send this directly to them, support the people around them, look at the ground, and if they print the receipts for you, it's a perfect world. So we're given a shot. If I raise $100, or if I raise $1,000, if I raise $10,000, I mean, anything was better than what I'll be able to give on my own, and then spreading light to that. So I think more stories like that would be huge. And if we can get more for good stories, I'm watching Iran to see what's going on there with the women revolt. There's a couple people in the space, kind of like, I'm keeping an eye on it. They're sharing the news. It's pretty crazy over there too, And then we had the earthquakes in Mexico. It was like 2 in a row, and it's like a 7-year itch every time in the same space in the same day, which is absolutely insane. So, but luckily there wasn't too much damage. But it's like, these are the events that show that people can come together and use crypto for good. Again, everybody likes to make money. I'm in it to make some money too. This is opportunity, but we have to remember what this thing was all about. We have to do a step back. And I think a lot of the new generation kind of get lost, and it's not their fault, because when you've been hungry your whole life and you don't really have opportunity, you're hungry, right? So you just worry about eating. And sometimes you forget that, like, other people, while you're eating, some people are starving. And so sometimes you have to take a step back and say, hey, we're not so bad. So let's like refocus our energy to good. And that's what I really like about products like Giveth and Doing Good. I just signed that. They just released their manifesto, and it's really good. And I'd love to maybe move the project together, but I was trying to move really, really quick on this for Puerto Rico. But if this gains steam, then maybe coordinate with something like Doing Good, maybe coordinate with something like Giveth. But I just wanted to move quick. I didn't want to deal with like DAO votes and all that. I just wanted to move. So if this goes well and it picks up steam, I would love to partner with those kind of organizations and just make something bigger. And like, again, you got to deal with trusted sources on the ground and then show the power of this. And, I've been dealing with like, how do you help people bank unbanked? And I've been looking into Austin Griffith's, what is it? Burner wallet. It's such a cool idea. Like it's called Punk Wallet, but basically, you don't even have a wallet. You don't even have a MetaMask. You just have a browser. And while that browser's open, you can accept payments. And then, you can, you don't want to give someone your wallet or anything, or you're a vendor and all they have is crypto and they're just going to pay you there. You can literally have this Punk Wallet. And then, as long as you don't close out that browser, that's the key point. You can then transfer to another wallet securely. But you can just make a wallet on the fly, and that's the cool part. Like someone doesn't need mass at the phrase. It's just a QR code. You send the money, and then when you're ready to transfer that money to another wallet, you just turn it around and with your MetaMask QR code, and then transfer the funds over. It is super awesome. And those are the things, those are the kind of issues that I would love to get more of people that in need. It's like, all right, I want to send you some money. Here's your QR code. Let me make sure. I'll send that money right there directly. They'll have it on their phone. They can move it to somewhere that accepts crypto and then bounce it right back. And then, someone that can accept food, merchants, and the people in time of need, like people with Ukraine, when people were freaking out and like, food was limited. People in Puerto Rico where like you can't even refrigerate your food. So like you have to go out and buy every day. I mean, when power goes out in my neighborhood, when like DWP is tripping, I'm tripping at 4 hours. I'm like, hey, I'm calling him on the phone. Hey, what's the deal here, man? I can imagine like 8 days, 9 days without like light. So it's like insane. So like you can't preserve your food, and like these are other things that you can't, like people don't think about. Like it sucks just being in the dark, but then it's like, okay, things just don't work. You can't communicate, you can't eat, like, and people don't know this noise. So I mean, they shut down internet. Man. It's such a crazy thing. So like all these new technologies just are in emerging. But definitely check out Punk Wallet, and I definitely have to reach out to Austin because I think you can host your own Punk Wallet party, in which you can have vendors. You preload it, and it works on NextDie or Gnosis, right? You can preload it with a couple bucks, and then the vendors will come out and they'll use those tokens to pay off. Or kind of like ETH Denver when they had those tokens, and then the vendors, you can pay them with those tokens when you registered. It's the same way.
Yeah.
So it teaches merchants how to accept payments in crypto and how easy it is to cash out. And I think that is pretty cool. And we need more stories like that. Those are the things that are going to bring the light to bring it all back. Where more people. Imagine if a politician said, "I want to kill Instagram." Imagine the noise that people would make if that idea was even brought up. It's suicide, right? So imagine we're going to regulate this and do that. Like, it just doesn't make sense. I want the same level of anger that people would do for like crypto regulations, because we're kind of killing it while we're still in dial-up. We're not even getting a chance to have DSL. We're not even have a chance to have fiber network. We're just like still in baby steps. And I think it's like just the bad news and this regulations and this overstep, especially, this absurd thing of like US owning, Ethereum because all the validators are on AWS. So therefore, they have a say on Ethereum, which is absolutely absurd. So yeah, it's just like a lot to take in this week of like all the information and all this political like craziness that I think is insane overall. But yeah, I mean, all we can do is see and see what happens at this point. Because in a sense, I kind of feel a little bit powerless in a sense when these regulations get passed, because I don't know anybody in that political power to do so, other than to educate other people about the good about the space overall.
Yeah, man, I definitely vibe with everything you're saying. I know I've said it in the past, but I just think that the community, and maybe this is a way to like leverage some of these tools, even if it's Punk Wallet or other things, helping to fund both activism and like lobbyists, basically, and the lobbyists meaning just educate, like oftentimes regulators make bad decisions because they have bad information. And to a certain extent, that's the industry's responsibility. Like if it cares about being represented, it has to show up and like be in DC, on the Hill, like in legislators' offices, helping them to like not make bad decisions. But that's the work that it takes. And I see a lot of money that's gone into DeFi education and some of these other things. I'm curious to see where it goes. But I don't know. I think hopefully more money and effort and attention will flow in that direction, to try to move the needle, or at least sort of prevent hostile, like I say, hostile actors from remaining in office. That's the thing, right? I don't think you want some lackey, but at the same time, it's just unfortunate to see like it's not even an attempt to be even-handed, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you know anybody or you know the kid of a famous politician, I'll send them some NFTs or something. As soon as their kids get involved in some kind of scam, then the rules change all of a sudden. That's kind of the way it works. So if anybody knows any political kids NFTs, I'll send them some tokens, some Billyjitsu tokens. So let me know.
Make them soul bound.
Exactly. Can't get them. One crazy news is I think I've seen one of the biggest bounties ever paid out. It was by our Arbitrum Nitro. It was actually a white hat hacker found a big time bug on the new I think layer 2 of the layer 2 version of Nitro. It was a 400 ETH bounty, which is absolutely insane. Did you hear anything about that one, T-Wells?
When you mentioned it earlier, I Googled it quickly and like saw the headlines and just looking forward to you describing this here and what was the vulnerability all about.
Yeah, the crazy thing is this guy's only been like a developer in the space for like 2 years, which is absolutely blowing my mind. And he discovered like this bridge hack. So basically, in Arbitrum, he found a bug that would let the address of the receiving ETH be changed. So anybody that found the bug can basically, when you bridge something over, it's supposed to bridge into the Arbitrum contract to hold for you when you come back, right? And so he found a way to change it to his wallet. And so, they verified it, they did it, and like that would have been catastrophic. I mean, we're talking like, gosh, in the scope of like maybe $530 million that Arbitrum has in their Ridge wallet right now could easily be drained. Yeah, it could be drained in a shot.
And it was live?
It was live. I mean, they announced.
Holy shit.
Yeah. That would have been catastrophic to the space. I mean, that would have been the end of Arbitrum in a sense. And so, like, he put it out, and nobody knew about it. It was crazy. They did it. They patched it up, and he was rewarded a 400 ETH bounty, and that was absolutely insane. So it goes to show, like, even the best of the best, and Arbitrum guys are no joke. I mean, they're pretty top notch. I'll have to give it to them. Like, looking at the stuff and everything they've done. I mean, everybody makes mistakes, but like this was a pretty big mistake, and it was found by a guy that's only been in space by 2 years. 2 years, absolutely insane.
This reminds me of the guy who wasn't there. There was inflation bug in Bitcoin, and it was a Bitcoin Cash developer. Well, the first inflation bug they rolled back, but the second inflation bug in Bitcoin was a BCH developer that submitted it. Right? It's like, God bless these people. I mean, what would the average person do if they found a Bitcoin inflation bug? I'm just saying. Yeah, amazing. Hats off, man.
Yeah, it's 0x Riptide. I mean, I follow him now, and like I look at what he does. I mean, anybody that makes something innovative in the space, I follow just to see what's going on. It just blew my mind that he was only in the space for 2 years. Again, I've been not as long, but it's crazy of like how fast some of these people go and like the deep understanding. It really comes to like a whole moral standard. You have the chance to walk away anonymously with millions of dollars in a sense. And it really comes down to your character. It's like, do you do it or do you not? And they're really like, when you start, when you're doing $500 million, there's no way you can live your life without looking over your shoulder, right? But you could probably get away with a couple mil, and maybe a lot of people wouldn't notice. So it really comes down to like, what kind of character are you? Are you here for the space, here for the money, And so, big ups to 0x Riptide on that one, because that one could have been abused for a long time and nobody would have noticed. The beauty of it that nobody was aware of it. They were able to patch it. and literally save, you know, $500 million in liquidity. That would have been another catastrophic, you know, thing for the space. So, you know, ups and props to them on that. One other hack that wasn't so white hack. Actually, there's two. There was two today. Actually, not one that happened today, but we'll talk about this one. The Wintermute hack. This one's kind of a crazy one, and a little bit of victim of two things. You know, a little bit of gas golfing and vanity wallets. So for those that don't know, vanity wallets is where you can like basically generate a specific wallet address, and so the Wintermute deployer or the admin of the contract had a vanity address with 7 leading zeros, right? And so I think it was, I forget who it was that was actually the vanity address like deployer, but they had sent out a notice a couple days before, hey, there's a bug in our wallet creator. People can figure out the private keys. You know, you should probably change it. Guess what? The Wintermute administrator did not change it, and they lost millions of dollars because it was compromised. The thing is, they actually they laid it out for you right in the documents, because they were saying how they were gas golfing and optimizing, saying by having 7 leading zeros in their contracts and everything like that, that you can optimize gas because it doesn't have to do, you know, certain transactions, and there's less, you know, there's more leading zeros, so it doesn't have to check the rest of the contract for all these little bits and bytes. We're talking saving 2-3 gas. You know? And so, you know, we have to like reconsider, like when I see all these posts on Twitter about these guys that write all this crazy assembly code and like optimize these things to save 2-3 gas, I'm like, it's not even worth it. And I always bring out, like, when I talk to other developers, it's like, who's building on Seaport, right? Seaport came out and it was this big innovative things. You have top of the class, you know, 0x Age, you have Transmissions 11s. These are like big shot developers in the space that really know how to optimize code. And the code is really, really optimized, right? They basically scraped every single gas on there. The problem is written in assembly, so it's really, really hard for other developers to build off of, right? Because then you have to learn assembly. So you're looking at bits and pieces like push 5, you know, add 10, you know, like it doesn't make any sense versus, you know, run function mint token or something. So now it takes another level of class of developer to be able to build off of it. So it's like nobody's building anything off of it because it's just hard to use. So we have to find that balance of like optimizing gas and readability, right? If it's just too hard to use, nobody's going to use it other than OpenSea. Because I don't know of any other team or any other developer team that's working off that platform at all other than the OpenSea team and maybe like one other random Twitter person. So, you know, you got to give and take on this gas golfing wars. So I myself, I'm not really gas golfing. just in case for anybody out there. Are you still there, T. Wells?
Yeah, man, I got you. Yeah, no, and this is, you know, sort of gas optimization is beyond my scope of. Yeah, I get what it means, but let me ask you a question, just sort of for my layman's brain to understand. Like, is it the case that so like the pursuit of ultimate gas optimization trades off with developer usability and composability, or no?
I mean, yes and no. So again, like we thought ERC 721, when everybody was minting contracts, let's say it was costing $10, right? It was costing $10 per mint. So if you wanted to mint 2 or 3 NFTs, it was going to cost you $30 in gas to mint something, right? And then lo and behold, here comes 721A that says, okay, for batch minting, you know, minting 3 tokens is only going to cost you $3. So they've optimized the gas. They changed the code from the standard to modify this and like optimize what people are using it for. Now we have someone taking it at another level. So in order to save even more gas and optimize, now instead of writing it in English language, we're going to write it in 1s and 0s. So then the computer doesn't have to translate it. So you save gas in the translation. So now it takes another, you know, person to, you know, read the 1s and 0s and understand how that works in order to do the same exact function. You know, we're all trying to mint a couple NFTs, but the way you approach it is you know, how you save that gas and the way the compiler works in the EVM machine. So the problem is when you start doing stuff in 1s and 0s, you start minting into the bytecode, and there's a really, really strong chance that you'll mess up. And that seems to be a case of a lot of hacks that want to do, you know, this gas golfing is just optimize gas. And sometimes it only saves 1 or 2 gas per transaction. Now, if you're doing 1,000 transactions, that really does add up, but it's still, you know, you're doing all this extra work for literally a couple pennies in a sense. So it's kind of like, yeah or nay. When gas was, 200 gwei, it kind of made sense, but it wasn't something that lasted really long, and it puts a lot of dangers in your code, and you start seeing all these hacks and whatnot, and it becomes this whole thing of like, what are you willing to risk, and are you really building something that you can become like this crypto Lego, or you're building something that's very exclusive for clout, and you're saving $1 per transaction, and that's where it comes down to. Like, if I'm trying to get attention, I'm going to optimize a code, but it's like, well, what good is it if other people can't use it?
I get it. So there's just like flex value, but not real usability.
Well, I mean, there's definitely like, there's a reason I use Gnosis because it's so cheap, right? And so if I wanted to, do some farming on Ethereum and it cost me $20 to claim a token, and I only made $25, I'm losing $20 in transactions. If someone optimizes it to make it like $1, then obviously that makes sense, right? So you have to pick and choose your battles on certain things, but when you optimize it so much and you create this whole gas golfing thing with this vanity address, someone did the math. And so by having 7 leading zeros, that knocked off a lot of the difficulty of cryptology. And so someone did the calculations, and with a couple hardware with video cards, you would be able to crack the wallet address in 30 days with that vanity wallet too. So whether there was a bug or not, it was crackable by just like brute forcing your way through figuring out the private key for the code. Leading zeros. So yeah, there's a lot of things you don't think about when you're when you're trying to optimize it. It's like, okay, I've optimized this thing, but what did I leave open? What kind of worms did I open? Because now we're putting into a lot of things, and now we're kind of leaving. I have ones and zeros, and if I left the zero open when it should have been in a one, now I have a room for exploitation. When it gets into the storage slot stuff, and it gets into all kinds of stuff, it's insane. And speaking of that, like MEV attacks, this is the craziest thing that just happened. A little, like maybe a couple hours ago, there was an MEV bot that made, I think, he made 800 ETH profit in a single arbitrage, which was absolutely insane, only to lose it to a hacker 2 hours later. So it's something would happen like where CeeLo.
Oh my god. $2 in crypto.
Yeah,
I'm gonna find it.
It's never a boring space in this space. So I guess the CeeLo Foundation sent some CUSD, and they forgot to unwrap the CUSD to use it to like USDC dollars and swap it for ETH. So when somebody swapped a couple $1 million in this USD, they only got $500 worth of ETH. So someone came in, sandwich attacked it, and basically arbitraged it out, right? They took the USD, they unwrapped it, sold it back. They made a huge profit in ETH. And I don't know what happened. I think he left his key in the bot, and the key got exploited. And then another hacker took it away from him and took the rest of the money he had in the wallet in there and left him a note. This is basically like a love-hate story happening on an Etherscan, because you can leave a message in the Etherscan wallet. And so some guy's saying, okay, return it. We'll call it a bounty. And the other person is saying, you return all the funds that you arbitrage with all the other people because you've stolen from everybody else. So how does it feel? So it's just ongoing back and forth, like good karma, bad karma kind of thing that happened. It's really like a great story. I'm still following right now to see what's going to happen, because this literally happened like a couple hours ago. It's just crazy with MEV bots. For those that don't know what MEV is, it used to be called miner extraction value, because the miners would be able to do this, but it's now been changed to maximal extraction value. So the validators have special transactions that they run specifically for certain transactions. It was GameSpots, and Manifold now has a couple of Flashbot providers. In a sense, you pay not so much a hefty fee, but your transactions run first on the block. So just to put an example for like an NFT thing, right? Somebody launches an NFT project, and you want to have token ID number 1, and you want to make sure that you are the first transaction that happens on that first available block when they unlock the token sale, right? And so you can then put your transaction on the Flashbot network. It's waiting in the memory pool, and then when that block opens, they basically put your transaction first, and you have like a a privilege in a sense to run transactions. It's
front running.
Yeah, in a sense. Yeah, so it's like before it was only miners, and so anybody that was the miners had control of it. So it was like a miner mafia, so to say. So Flashbox came around and said, hey, let's make a public RPC for anybody to use. So developers can use it, or anybody that doesn't have a mining setup. So they can have a fair game, and that kind of evened the playing field for a long time. Because before it was only the miners that could do so. And so it's just the way things are going now. So now proof of stake is doing, they would have sandwich attacks, and we're still kind of adjusting to the new miner roles, because now we have, instead of miners with running hash powers, we're running with validators and random validators. But if you look at Lido Finance and Rocket Pool, a lot of those validators are now shooting for Manifold and Flashbots. And a little bit of drama with Flashbots is because they're picking and choosing the transactions they choose, not associating themselves with anything that has touched Tornado Cash. So the community has to have split decisions on that. Flashbot has a lot of American users. They don't want any of that, government smoke. And then the purists are saying this is horrible. Get rid of Flashbots and all that drama on there. But it is a usable service. What I have used Flashbots for in an experiment is, someone that has their wallet stolen, but they have like a bunch of NFTs or other tokens on there, and the hacker basically steals all the ETH that goes in there, right? So if you send ETH to the wallet to try to extract the NFTs or extract, any other tokens, the hacker's just going to take the ETH because they have a script. So with a Flashbots MEV attack or a program or that transaction is, you can then program a set of transactions to happen all in order. So you can send ETH and then immediately send all your NFTs out and send all your tokens out on the same transaction. So the hacker won't have the ability to withdraw the ETH because you've already withdrawn it all within that one transaction. It all happened in that one block. So there's no chance, and it happened first. So there's no chance for the hacker to basically steal your ETH when you put it in there. Kind of like a honeypot thing.
Got it, I think.
Yeah.
Wow, man. Like, there's a whole world of this, MEV and hack side stuff that's so wild to, non-technical people to just realize, reminds me of people like Luigi that just, I mean, seems like an endless rabbit hole of possibilities, and like, it's certainly been a wild ride for the last 6 months in particular.
Yeah, it is like, we're like, when people talk NFTs or tokens, like, you're just scratching the surface of what is the technology is and what the ability is of what is out there in the space. And sometimes it takes a little while for you to absorb it in and get comfortable. But then when you start deep diving into certain subjects, it's like, man. And then there's people that take this to the next level, hosting their own RPCs. And it's really a PvP game, so there's not a lot of information about this stuff out there, because the more people that know about it, the more competition there is, right? So if you're the only one in the block and you're running your own, MEV bots, then, you're the only one in charge. So now it becomes like, who writes the better code? Who writes the faster code? Whose bot is faster? Everybody's going after that same arbitrage. Everybody's going after that same liquidation. And who's first? It becomes this whole PvP battle. So it's hard to get a lot of this information out there, and it was really hard for me to get information out there. And so Flashbots is kind of a public service to like let everybody know that this stuff exists, and here's some documentation. And it took me a really, really long time to wrap my head around, because there are people that are willing to help, but only willing to help so far. Because if you help you too much, now you're competition. So there's a whole bunch of games in here. You have flash swaps from Aave, and all these other cool technologies that emerge that people don't utilize in the space. And so like when I hear people like saying regulations and we're going to do this and that, it's like my mind already thinks of how to get around that, right? So that's kind of why I believe politically they won't give any guidelines, because as a developer, all you have to do is, okay, I can't do this and this, then I'll do this, and I'm going to find a way around it. And then that's a problem. I mean, I remember Europe was going to say, oh, we're going to do, let the chain only have, 600 million transactions in a day. It's like, all right, I'll just do 2 flash swaps from Aave and then use all that fund up. And now you've done transactions and it cost me a couple cents. And now I've hit the quota for the day. You're always going to have some kind of troll that will basically defy whatever rule there is. This is going back to the punk system of like, you're going to create this rule, I'm going to find a way around it. And that's just the way the technology works. And that's the way it is, unfortunately. Fortunately and unfortunately.
Yeah. I hear you, man. I'm going to read up on this too, because MEV is something I've only have a cursory understanding of, but I think that the Flashbot docs is a good place to probably get started with some of that research.
Yeah, definitely. In essence, in the most simplistic version in the world, you are able to, like, let's say you want to buy an NFT and then you want to list it on OpenSea, right? So you buy the NFT and it mints, goes to your wallet, and then you have to go to OpenSea and then do a transaction to put in your wallet. Just imagine if you could basically go on MetaMask and say, I want to mint, post on this, and then I'll pay one transaction fee, and it just basically does it all automated for you. That's pretty much what the MEV does for you in a sense, but people do a whole list of things on there. That's how that Bored Ape that was getting sold on the market, under market got sniped, and then they claimed the ape token, and then they sold the ape token, and then they sold the ape back to another seller that was selling it at a higher price, and that all happened in one transaction. So there's guys out here just constantly watching for opportunities. So the opportunities, if you're willing to read and do the research and do the homework, there's always an opportunity in the space. It's just a lot of competition. But there's also side chains. You have Arbitrum, Optimism, Gnosis, Polygon. So like the big players are definitely in Ethereum because that's where the most liquidity is. But there's opportunities everywhere. I am not good enough to even be a great player in the game, but I am getting my feet wet in it. And the more I learn about it, the more I'll share on here. It's just hard to find, good solid docs, and people aren't too talkative about it. But it's just something that should be well known and should be known to people that are in places of government. Like, be aware of these things. You're going to create these rules and regulations. You need to really understand the tech and what it's capable of before you make these decisions, because then you people make that bad decisions, and then it creates this whole negative thing. It's like, well, you didn't think this through. Like, oh, this crazy sanction is like a piece of code. It's like, well, what about every other fork that exists? It just wasn't well thought out. And then you're gonna get people.
There are ways to genuinely help protect people, no doubt. But as you're saying, they gotta understand what they're dealing with, right?
Yeah. So that's kind of the spiel for the day, and I've probably overloaded people's brain of like what of all the details on there. But it's there's a never-ending learning curve in this space. I'm always learning, getting my mind blown by talented developers in the space. I'm always trying to keep up with what's going on. I just had like Twitter Space with DevDAO with Oasis protocol. And they're doing like a whole chain based on privacy. So basically Monero on Ethereum, and it's backwards compatible with EVM. So that's really, really cool. So I'm thinking, all right, how this one DAO is getting sued, and some of them are going after the participating members of the DAO. Well, I mean, a lot of people don't like to vote, and have people know. So totally privacy voting. You vote with your tokens, and it just shows that these people have voted, but you don't know who voted. And so it gives you a little sense of privacy. Aztec Network has privacy. So there's just a whole lot of innovation coming into the space. And, really privacy focused seems to be the main goal. You have ZK rollups or Zero Knowledge. Polygon, Arbitrum, and them are working on it. So this privacy seems to be the new flavor of the month, right? And actually, Oasis is having a hackathon. I've been kind of debating on it myself. I just don't know if I have time, but it is really cool. One of their examples on the Oasis Foundation is a dead man switch, which I thought like immediately on the top of my head is like, as I've been traveling a lot, I was like, okay, if I pass away or like I go missing, like what happens to all the money in my wallet, right? So I've decided like, okay, if I made a contract that has a dead man switch, then I can create a contract which will give approval to pull the funds from my wallet and distribute to other wallets, kind of like a crypto will, so to say, right? And so if I'm alive, I have to send the transaction to, basically say, keep my money in the wallet, so don't let the contract pull the money. But if I pass away or I lose my keys, then, whatever time I set, a year, 2 years, 2 days, whatever I set, when that time expires, then the contract can then call and pull the assets out and distribute it to all the other tokens. So I thought that was kind of cool, like having a dead man switch.
What would it's interesting, man. What would trigger the switch itself? Like in the instance where you're saying if something catastrophic were to happen, but how would the chain know to set the timer?
Well, so basically it's a true or false. Like, did I set the kill man switch or not? So every year it would touch if I expire. So someone will have to manually call it from the contract, or you can use Gelato Network or Open Zeppelin Defender. or even Chainlink keepers have something that does automatic transactions for you, which is a new thing that's been coming out and becoming more popular too. Automated transactions. So I've been playing with the Open Zeppelin Defender, and it basically, if there's an event that goes true or that happens, then it will basically trigger and it'll call the transaction for you. This is how bridges happen and functions like that. So it's becoming more and more popular. It's no longer wait for an event to happen and somebody has to push it. You can have it automated in a sense. It's still early, but it's still something that could happen. And so when I saw this dead man switch from the Oasis Foundation, keeping it all private and keeping whoever your for the lack of a better word, I can't think of it, like the people that receive money from your will, I forget. It's on the tip of my tongue. But basically receivers of any will assets that you have will then automatically, be able to pull that in their wallet or go to a multi-sig or wherever you choose, right? So I thought that was a really cool idea. It made me think
cool.
McAfee, if he has a dead man switch and then information will be uploaded. So if you have some private docs, Oasis Foundation, if I'm a dead man switch, then everything goes public, and so people can't see it until it goes public. So that's another cool idea from the Oasis Foundation. Privacy, privacy, privacy,
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, I got them up on screen here, and I'm sort of making a list of projects to do my own research and try to get some people on the Monday show related to privacy. Yeah, I definitely think that there's a lot of interesting stuff being built around the necessity for it on chain. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, they have actually a couple chains on there. They have the Emerald network and the Sapphire network. The Sapphire network is the ones that are concerned about privacy, not financial advice, but they are layer one that's going to have a token that works as a sidechain to Ethereum, so it makes it backwards compatible with EVM. ZK rollups or zero knowledge is very limited. They're very limited to single transactions, so you don't see too many EVM transactions. So they have different forms of privacy, different technologies to it. So definitely something to look into. If you're a big believer in privacy, then if you were in Zcash or in Monero, just another thing to look into. Just everybody's approaching things different.
Yeah, I'll show one more, which is ZKBob, zkbob.com. These are the folks from Block Explorer and previously XDAI, and they've built an interesting app. It's launched on Polygon, and it's a ZK app, right? So the Bob token is sort of native to the dApp itself, and it's more or less pegged to USDC and narrow liquidity on UniV3. And so within the app itself, you're able to send anonymous stablecoin transactions, private stablecoin transactions using ZK technology. So it's pretty cool, and they have really been thoughtful with the deposit and withdrawal limits and all this to try to stay, as above board as possible and really tailor the tool to small businesses or, peer-to-peer transactions, just to offer a tool that's, I don't want to say capable of flying under the radar, but it's something that really provides utility for people who are using it for, the right purposes and not trying to, push through hack money or whatever. So ZKBob is kind of a cool project that we're actually doing some content for them, but I'm learning more. I'm learning more slowly about this this privacy stuff.
Yeah, the whole zero knowledge stuff is like my brain's gonna explode. The math behind it is just like insanity. I've been reading about it. I've been talking to a couple other guys in Developer DAO that have kind of formed a group about ZK, the rollups, ZK Starks, ZK Snarks. I'm like, what the fuck? The math behind it is just insane. It's like I hated proofs in college, and I hate proofs now. So it's such an interesting thing. It's just so difficult. Yeah, but it's going to be. I have a feeling that's going to be one of the major focuses right now, especially because of the oversteps of the government and basically more of the punk revolution again. Being anon might be cool again. Who knows? So it's just something that I'm keeping my eye out. I'm learning more and more about. The Sapphire was pretty cool. I thought the Dead Man Switch was pretty cool. So definitely something to keep out. There's this crypto space never stays the same. I tell everybody, do you see people still selling spinners? They were cool for a time and then they died down and then something new replaces it. So, you know, I think
Yeah.
yeah, would be something to look at. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff happening in the space and development, but the builders are building it. You know, I hate using the word builders because everybody abuses it because they build for whatever they want. But there's actually developers making code where people can use stuff that would be really, really awesome. And so, you know, just throwing the Sapphire network out there, they do have a hackathon. So any developers that hear the space, definitely check it out. You know, they're doing a lot of cool stuff and a lot of funding to get people on the chain and just, you know, privacy focused, and I love that. You know, I think that's it for the day. You know, no major rants other than my political rant in a sense, and you know, just another reminder of the stuff that I'm doing for Puerto Rico. That has not been dropped just yet. As soon as it does, I will make some noise. Because of the situation there in Puerto Rico, like they don't have any internet to actually send me the artwork that needs to complete the network. So the contract is done, the website is pretty much done. I've been testing it, but I just need a full complete art set. And because of the situation there, you know, they can't upload, you know, a few photos to me, and that's kind of unfortunate. So we're waiting, but when I do, I'll make some noise, and you know, I would appreciate a retweet and just, you know, just more noise out there.
Right on, man. Well, it's been a great show. I learned a lot as always. Hope everybody enjoyed themselves. Jammed everybody who's joined us here in the Twitter space on YouTube. Yeah, share around if you enjoyed. And back in another 2 weeks. What do you say, Billy?
Yeah, 2 weeks. Again, I've been debating on doing like collaborations with other spaces, you know, just because there's a lot of spaces that happen at the same time and there's a lot of competition. It is a late night. So I am debating on like maybe doing coordinated with a couple other folks with the same agenda. As long as they, you know, mind my comedy, we should be a-okay. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking, but for right now, it's every 2 weeks. I'll keep you updated. Any new news? There's always some kind of drama on the Twitter space. As for Go Lewis asking on Twitter, I don't know when we're going to have subtitles, especially in Spanish. I don't know yet, but I'm pretty sure we'll look into it. But yes, count every 2 weeks unless something major comes up, or if there's a cool collaboration that I can work with to have a, you know, systematic system where we just, you know, unite the community and you know, update people on the news and what's happening in the developer space. That would be cool. But until then, it's just me and you on the late night and on Twitters and YouTube and Discord. But until then, you know, till 2 weeks.
Hey, sounds good, man. Sounds good. Well, everybody give Billy a follow there. OneHive.org, follow. If you do, appreciate you, and always enjoy spending time with you, Billy. GM to you and everybody.
Awesome, guys. Have a good night. And as always, my DMs are open, and I'll catch you guys in 2 weeks.
Cheers, everybody.